Did you say like Gnostics, yeah?
Yeah, agnostics, yeah.
Oh, agnostics. Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, the one is everything. It's not God, like the Abrahamic God. You cannot address it. You cannot pray to it.
Say that. Can you raise your voice a bit? Sorry.
There's this thing called the One.
Yes.
The One is unknowable. You cannot know the One. You cannot address it. You cannot pray to it. The only prayer you can say is, "We do not know the One." Now the gods, they're manifestations of the One, and they can be comprehended or understand because they embody characteristics of human nature. So that could be Odin is the symbology of strength and knowledge, and that's what we strive to be, even though we could accept that he never really existed. Or he could be inspired by a real person that existed a long time ago and then got mythologized, like a lot of gods are. Or you could believe that he is a literal thing that started civilization, and we're having more and more discoveries and finding that civilization goes back tens of thousands of years, and they all had a very unifying sort of belief system. It involved a lot of sun worship as well, but they also had...
Is it Odin? You said your god is Odin.
Odin, Woden, Wotan, you know, there's a lot of different...
What about Thor?
Thor?
What about Thor?
Yeah, I can see that.
Is your god as well?
Yeah.
So how many gods do you have?
That come from the Vikings, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's also something that goes further back, like tens of thousands of years ago. Like,
So let's work on the definition of God. What's your definition of God?
I just explained to you. There's the One, but it's not like the Abrahamic God. You cannot know it. But the gods are manifestations of the One. We're all connected by the One. You know,
Would
the
you
one
say
is everything,
Would you say a God is an object of worship?
I think it's an object of respect.
Okay. So then, am I a God to you?
Your manifestation of the One. But, you know, the One is.
No, but I mean you respect me, yeah?
Yeah.
But
We're all stardust, you know.
yes.
essentially.
No, what I'm trying to say is that respect is quite a generic term.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so there's two things we want to get maybe important definitions in terms of definitions. Yeah, what is a god,
Yep.
and what god is worthy of worship?
I don't believe the gods, in my interpretation, should be worshipped. They need to be respected, like nature. But you don't know if nature's going to, turn on you. You know, it's very unpredictable.
What is a god?
Oh, like I said, either a real being that started civilization, or a interpretation of human nature.
Yeah. But what makes a god any different from anything else in the world?
Oh, that they are at a higher being than we are.
But how higher? How much higher?
I don't know.
Let me give you an example. Would you say human beings
Yeah.
are at a higher being than animals?
Possibly.
Yeah? Alright, so let's just say yeah, for the sake of argument. Are they gods respective to them?
Yeah.
So animals, we are gods to animals.
No, because they don't have the same sort of mindset that we have. You know?
Then I mean, animals
Their God
consider
is
us.
Their God is instinct.
No, I understand, but your definition in the first instance was that it's a hierarchy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look, a god is an object of worship, meaning whatever people worship, they consider as their god. Okay, so if someone worships money,
Yep.
their god is money. Do you see what I mean? If someone worships themselves, then their god is their own desires. They can be their own god.
Yeah, but I only accept worship of the ancestors.
No problem. But so now we have to define what worship is. Okay. So worship is ultimate submission,
Yeah.
love, fear, and obedience.
Yeah.
Okay, or you can say obedience, love, and fear, which constitutes submission. So in other words, you're totally compelled by this agency. This agency tells you to do something, you do this thing. You're in obedience to that with this agency. All right. So now the question is, what deserves that kind of servitude? What deserves that kind of... So if your mum told you to do X and Y, Z, is there any limit to her commands?
There's also a grey area, but essentially you wouldn't exist if it weren't for them.
Okay, excellent. All right, so you've said something really important here, that your parents are important because if it wasn't for your parents, you wouldn't exist. So Then what about your grandparents? Because without your grandparents, your parents wouldn't exist, and then you wouldn't exist. What about your great-grandparents? Same thing, right?
Yep.
And then what about
ancestor worship as well?
right? And then what about
the
all?
most primitive form of worship?
Right. So now if we go all the way back to the beginning of the universe,
Yep.
if we said that there was something that incepted the universe, began the universe, or created the universe, would that be an object of worship?
Yeah, but that's a manifestation of the one.
Right. And if that one, Alaikum salam, okay? Alhamdulillah. If that one
Yep.
is that one more worthy of worship than anything else? From that perspective, because remember you said your parents, and then we said your grandparents and your great grandparents. We say all the way back to the one.
Yep.
So is that one that created the universe? From that logic, shouldn't that be the thing that's most worthy of worship?
I get where you're coming from, but the thing is, we cannot claim to know what we don't
No,
know.
I know. We don't know the intricacies of it, but we don't know our great grandparents. Have you ever seen your great grandparents?
No.
Neither have I, right?
But I think it's important that we know.
But we know that they existed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do we know they existed? Because of the effects, right? The same thing now. We know that we exist, or the universe existed, because of the effects of the ones. How you doing? You okay? Right? So the universe came into existence.
Yep.
The one brought it into existence.
Yep.
Okay. Now, in the same way as our grandparents or great-grandparents or ancestors, you in your conception deserve a high level of respect or whatever, or even worship. You're saying. I'm saying that. Well, why don't we bring that all the way back to the one? Because the one now, from a higher necessary station, deserves more worship than anything else after that, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you think about it. All right. So that's what we believe.
Yeah.
As Muslims, we say that really and truly the one that's worthy of worship is the one. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Because without the one, you wouldn't be in existence. But not only would you not be in existence, nothing else would be in existence.
But you're claiming that the one
Yes.
has opinions.
Pardon?
Does your God or the one have opinions?
The one
Yeah.
doesn't have opinions.
But why do people say that we had this vision for the angel telling me?
The one doesn't need opinions. The one, if the one speaks the truth. If the one creates in truth. If the one does in truth. There's no room for opinion there. There's just truth. The one is responsible for every subsequent action. The one is responsible for the creation, the sustaining, the maintaining of the universe and everything within that universe. And therefore the one is worthy of worship because they are responsible for all of that. And without the one, nothing else would exist.
But what if,
Would you agree with that?
yeah, but then we keep digging ourselves who created the one and who created that one.
Right, no, but the one has no creator. The one has no creator.
How do you know?
Pardon?
How do you know?
We know the one has no creator for two main reasons. If you presuppose the existence of an infinite regress, you can say, who created that one, who created that one, who created it, keep going like that. You're going to keep going infinitely regressively backwards. And if you have an infinite regression like that,
How you know it's a linear line and not a circle?
either way, whether it's linearity, or it's circularity, or it's atemporality, or there's no time attached to it, or there's no bodies attached to it, let's say this infinity of bodies that exists, and let's say for the sake of argument, things that existed before things. Two questions. Number one, could it be the case that you can traverse that infinity?
Right?
Because if we say that we're adding to that infinity, then we're saying that that infinity is susceptible to addition and subtraction. And infinity by definition can't be susceptible to addition or subtraction because you can't add to an infinity. However, even if you wanted for the sake of argument to say that you can add to an infinity and you can subtract from it, what I would say is, what does that infinite regress, what does it depend on? And why would that not be coextensive with the one? So even if you wanted to say that there was an infinite regress of things, you've got three things to deal with. Number one, can there physically be an infinite regress when we know if there's additions to it, it would constitute the contradiction of having an addition to something which is already infinite. If you say it's possible, then I'm saying, what does all this infinite regress depend on, or what is it caused from? What causes infinite regress? And if you say there is no cause, and it doesn't depend upon anything, then I'll say to you, then did it have to be that way? And if you say no, it didn't have to be that way, then I'll say then that's not the definition of the one. You need something which is necessary in existence that brings everything else into being, that all of these infinite things depend upon, and it depends upon nothing, and which is eternal, which means that nothing come before it, and it itself doesn't have a beginning. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
There's no cause.
It's uncaused. It's uncaused.
Yeah.
So that one.
Doesn't your argument suggest that if there was a cause, then there logically should be?
Pardon?
If there was a cause, then surely that is God.
Yeah. Yes. If uncaused cause.
But I'm suggesting it's infinity. So.
No. If you say it's infinity, okay, fine. Let's say there's no such thing as cause. Yeah. You have an infinity. Yeah. Infinity of things being created before things. Yeah. Okay. Did it have to be like that? Could it be rearranged?
Deep questions, yes. But
It can be rearranged, yeah? Because it's not necessary. Alright, 2 plus 2
I don't claim to know.
Right, 2 plus 2 equals 4. Can it be any other way? Can 2 plus 2 ever equal anything other than 4?
That's the thing. I don't know if that's our subjective view.
This is straightforward.
Or if it's, the
2 plus 2 equals 4.
Yeah.
Alright?
Yeah, no, I know
Alright.
that. But
So 2 plus 2 can never equal anything other than 4.
alright, and that's God.
No, what I'm saying is that that's necessary fact, yeah? Now, in this case, you have a universe. You have another universe, you have something else before it, and it goes infinitely regressively backwards. This infinite regression, we said number one, if you're adding time to it, bodies to it, or movement to it, it will be growing bigger. And infinity can't be susceptible to that, because that's a contradiction. Number two, even if for the sake of argument you say it's no problem, I'll still believe in infinity, I'll say no issues. I'll say, but how comes, what is this thing? Is it a possible existence or a necessary existence? Is it like 2 plus 2 equals 4 that it can't be any other way? Or can it be another way? The fact that it can be rearranged means it's possible, which means it requires something independent, necessary and eternal in order to exist. So in other words, you can't have an infinite multiverse, especially not if it's not dependent on anything. It's like floating in thin air. It has to, like you have dominoes, they're knocking each other over. There has to be one thing that they're all leaning upon. Now, what I'm saying is, that's the one. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Yeah, so it can't have a creator. It can't have something that created it. The one, it's uncaused, it's eternal, and doesn't have a creator. Does that make sense? And we're saying that's the one that you should worship. Does that make sense? Alright. So we say that there are prophets and messengers that came to peoples and times, aforetime, to tell the people to believe in one God, the one, and to worship only one God. And that worship only makes sense to that one God. It doesn't make sense to anyone else, because it's the highest form of veneration. Worship is ultimate love, ultimate fear, ultimate obedience. Everything should be in line with the will of the one. But what is the will of the one? How do we know what the will of the one is? We say that the will of the one is sent to us or communicated to us through messengers and prophets. Okay, those people like Moses and Abraham, Jesus and Muhammad came to tell the people to believe in one God and to worship only one God. That's the one. You see, so what we're saying.
I would say that these ideas that came to believing in one God came from polytheism.
How would you substantiate that? Because,
well, essentially, how do we know during Abraham's time that he believed in one God, that created everything? That it wasn't like a one that where he believed that was a high God, but there are other gods, but he had specific worship for that. That's where the term.
Yeah, so we believe the only one worthy of actual worship in an ultimate sense is God. In terms of obedience, lower levels of obedience, you give that to your parents, you give that to your society, give that to the law and so on. But there's a prophetic saying that we have, لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. There's no obedience in the creation in the disobedience to the Creator.
Right.
So the one is the one that ultimately deserves the obedience.
Right.
And what we're saying is that
That suggests that you know the Creator.
we don't know the essence of the Creator, but we know some characteristics of the Creator. So like you just said yourself, one, right? So that's one of the things: eternality, oneness, a creative capacity, will, and so on. Maintaining capacity that it maintains everything around us, sustains us, and so on. So this is the one.
Oh yeah, that's interesting because as a pagan, I have a shrine where there's.
Come, it's an interesting discussion.
No, I was talking to the
He's
Haji.
a pagan.
Keep up the great work.
Pagan.
Really?
Yes. But he's not a monotheist. I believe he's a monotheist now. You know.
Really?
Yeah. Are you a monotheist?
No, well, that's the thing.
So,
There's a grey area I know where claiming to believe in the Creator as being the thing worthy of worship. But I have a shrine where it's like you see things in Trinity, and it's like the Father, the Son, the Father, the Mother, and the Son, and it's a characterized of how the family works. And
yeah, I appreciate all that. But what I'm saying to you is that the one worthy of worship is the one. All of those things, you shrines, and those are mistakes of human beings. Right. They're directing their ultimate veneration and so on to objects which are not worthy of worship. Do you understand?
No, you're not worshiping.
Huh? How you doing? You okay? You're right. No, you're right. You good, yeah? Right.
We're not worshipping the objects. They're basically a way to focus our
but
meditation in order to.
That's not
have
the
a symbol,
that's not the way the prophets they told the people to do it. Okay, so the people were told to worship and believe in one God through the correct methodology.
Yep.
Yes, and they had evidences to prove that they were prophets. The method is to worship God alone in His oneness and not to associate any partners with Him.
And people always change the text later on.
They have changed the text and so on, but the Quran has never been changed. And that's one of the things that is preserved. You see what I mean?
I don't know. I do feel that the Abrahamic beliefs are, in their essence, a mixture of ancient Egyptian. Zoroastrianism is a big part as well. Greek influences.
Well, the thing is,
as well,
we say all of those things. We say it's not just Abrahamic religions. For us, the prophets came as soon as human beings was on the earth. We had prophets. Yep. We had prophets before Abraham. Noah was before Abraham. Adam, so on. So look, what we're saying.
Noah count?
Huh?
Doesn't Noah count?
Noah counts, yeah.
As a prophet?
As a messenger, as a prophet, yeah. He came before Abraham. So the reason why these stories would have been there was because you had prophets all the time in Islamic history. Islam just means submission to one God. Worship one God. To direct your veneration, your love to that Creator, rather than to the creation. To direct it to an ultimate power, rather than a perishable thing. To direct it to something which can help you, rather than to something which can. Let me tell you something really beautiful, right? The story of Abraham in the Quran. If you look at chapter 21 of the Quran, and you'll find there's a discussion between Abraham and his people. And Abraham, he spoke to his people, and his father was there and so on. And by the way, this Abraham was a Mesopotamian prophet back in Mesopotamia, yeah. And what happened was Abraham, the Quran says, إذ آتينا إبراهيم رشده من قبل وكنا له عالمين. That we gave Abraham his firmness and we were of him knowing. إذ قال لأبيه وقومه. He said to his father and his people. He said to them, what are you worshipping from other than Allah? Yeah? Because they used to have statues that they used to worship and so on. Yeah. It says, what are you circumambulating? So I saw them circumambulating these things. قالوا وجدنا آباءنا لها عابدين. They said that we saw our fathers, our forefathers, worshipping those things. It's kind of like you, because to be honest, the reason why you might have, because you know the history, you might have thought, okay, what am I as an Englishman? Yeah, you might, I don't know. Are you English? Yeah. You thought, okay, let me see. Who am I? I'm Anglo-Saxon, Norman, Viking, because 1066 you had the Norman invasion, and so on. And before that, you had, at the time of Alfred the Great, you had the Normans coming. What do you call it? The Vikings coming in. And then he kind of mixed them up. So English people now are a compilation of Anglo-Saxon, Viking, and Norman.
All those people descend from the same people, which were Belgica invaders during the Neolithic.
Yeah, all right. So you might have looked at that and then thought, okay, what is it that we really believe in? So
we're essentially Indo-Europeans, and we're finding all these new.
So those pagan beliefs that you have are actually the beliefs of the early English, if you like, right, and of the early Vikings and so on. So just like Abraham said to his people, what are you worshipping other? And they said, we saw our forefathers doing it. And it might be the case that you looked into that part of history and said, okay, well, you know what, my forefathers were doing this. I want to go back to my, my history. So he said to them, really, is this what you and your forefathers are in dalal mubin? You are in a misguidance. So what he did, listen to it. He took something, and he saw the statues there, and he smashed the statues. So they said,
what ISIS done in those statues of Mesopotamian statues is horrendous.
Yes.
That's the prize. That's history.
Okay, but that's
We know there were no statues in the Kaaba to begin with, to clarify.
But this is we're talking about Abraham.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So this was a long time ago, man. This is like 5,000 years ago or something. So he destroyed the statues, right? And then he said to them, it says, who did this? Because that person is very bad to have done that, right? Innahu lamin al-zalimin. That certainly that person is from the transgressors. قالوا سمعنا فتى يذكرهم يقال له إبراهيم. They said to him, we saw a young man talking about them. His name was Ibrahim. So they brought Abraham back. So Ibrahim. Also Abraham. There's another qira'ah. So Abraham, come over here. What's going on? He said to them, actually, the big one of them did it. Because he left the big one. He broke all of them except for the big one. Yeah. So the big one did it. The big one did it. So they looked around and said, no. They didn't. They kind of thought about it. So he said, you know that they don't talk. And this is the point. He said that how would you worship anything that can't it can't calm you, and it can't help you. That has no salvific functionality there. Think about it. Why would you want to worship something which possesses no salvific functionality? It can't help you. It can't harm you. The point is, worship should be directed to an agency which is able to put you from point A to point B, to give you something which you don't already have, to provide for you what you can't provide for it. But those pagan beliefs are necessarily problematic because, frankly, they don't.
I would say that the pagans maybe had some misinterpretation of things. Like I as a pagan, I'm against animal or human sacrifice, because that was a misinterpretation of things. Like the Norse gods admitted it. But also, I would say what they worshipped essentially was the sun. And it makes sense because the sun is the bringer of life, it nourishes us and all that thing. It's something that does play a prominent role in our day-to-day lives. Again, the word worship I have issue with because...
Well, that's another thing. Abraham dealt with people that worship the sun as well. In the Quran it says that Abraham was talking to his people, again, in another occasion, in chapter 6 of the Quran, and he said to them, I'm going to worship, the stars. And then فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ, when it was set, he said, I don't like the afilin, I don't like those things which set, it goes away. And then he looked at the moon, he said, I'm worshipping the moon. And then when it's set, he said, I don't like. And then he said, the sun, هَذَا رَبِّي هَذَا أَكْبَرُ, this is my big Lord. So when it's set, it says, this is important now, because لَإِن لَمْ يَهْدِنِي رَبِّي لَأَكُونَنَّ مِنَ if God does not guide me, then I will be from the astray. Now the point is, not only does a God have to provide salvific functionality, be able to provide good and bad, but he also has to provide guidance. The sun can't provide guidance, can't tell you how to live your life, could help you to some extent because it gives you life, but it doesn't provide no guidance. And itself is conceivable, as Abraham said, it's conceivable for it to be extinguished, to be out of existence. It's not always there. I mean, for you have night time. Night time is a time where the sun is out of your reach, if you like.
I think like the sun is symbolically keeping us grounded. Like I say, the Christians, their belief in Jesus is essentially sun worship. Do you agree with that?
Yes. No, but SON, not SUN.
We understand how it's a concept that even though we tend to not be pagans, it's something we still can't escape from. And
some of
the cross itself is...
I agree with those guys. I totally agree that they have polytheistic tendencies. But what I'm saying is, I'm calling you to a pure monotheism.
Yeah, but...
The sun can't help, the sun can't guide you, the sun can only help you so much, and it's not always going to be there.
I feel like
statues can't help you.
The idea of monotheism comes from polytheism interpretation.
But I know you're saying that, but can you see what I'm saying here? That there's an ultimate creator thing, which created everything, and sustains everything, and maintains everything, and that thing is worthy of worship. Listen, think about it. Don't make any decision.
I understand what you're saying, but people are going to really mess with that shit and say, well, it doesn't matter what I do. Everything is all in a divine dispute. It's all controlled by God. It's all scripted. Therefore, this was bound to happen. I feel like
think about it, man. And if you want, you can worship God and just see how it feels. We're going to start Ramadan tonight, so
all right. Well,
yeah, try it. Thank you, man. Thank you. It's nice talking to you, man. Thank you.
You're great debater, by the way. I've seen you